Across the world, there were wars, riots, insurrections. But in Trinidad in June, they awaited tidings from a very different battlefront.
Francesca coming, speed under, you're on.
Brian Lara sets another world record. Good evening, I'm Francesca Pollard with TV6 News. Brian Lara has today made 501 not out for his English county Warwickshire, establishing a new world record for the highest individual score in first-class cricket. Earlier this year, Lara broke the test record after scoring 375 for the West Indies against England in Antigua.
Over here, Brian, into the camera, please. Come in. And again, Brian, here, please. Brian.
Brian, round here, mate.
Inside 7 weeks, Brian Lara eclipsed the two Everests of batsmanship, Gary Sober's 365, and in all first-class cricket, the 499 of Hanif Mohammed.
I tried to meet him in England this summer, but unfortunately I couldn't get through, and he was too busy, maybe getting money, counting money.
Great shot.
I think that people loves a winner, and I think that Brian is a winner. I think he plays the type of game, I think he's produced a type of cricket that people like to watch. And it doesn't matter which country you're in, you would enjoy Brian Lara, because he's the type of player that one will enjoy watching.
The record has to be broken, and I'm very glad that the person who has done it, Brian Lara, who is a great batsman, and it was broken by a great player.
This monsoon of runs had two consequences. Money on a scale unprecedented in cricket, £750,000 by Christmas. But with it came the strain. Commerce, the media, the fans assumed proprietorial rights, and Lara was new to it.
I don't think I would ever realize how good I am until maybe the end of my career, because at some stage you hear Gary Sober say, you know, I think this young boy is going to be one of the best batsmen in the world. How at 17 or 18 when he first saw me, how could he, you know, say something like that? I mean, it got me frightened, but it gave me the inspiration to keep going.
What do these bats weigh? What weight?
Around 2.8.
2.8?
Yeah. It's fancy.
That's a bit heavy, isn't it?
It's good. Right weight for me.
Yeah.
2.7, 2.8.
Terrific.
Just past the 3. Just above my 3. Between the 2 3.
Back home in Trinidad, Lara was everything but canonized. An ecstatic government presented him with this prime site plot of land for some future palatial residence. The national airline awarded him 375,000 miles of free first-class air travel. Not to be upstaged, the island telephone company gave him 375,000 units of free phone calls. But the gift of all gifts had been bestowed 24 years earlier, a supernatural talent for ball games.
I think from very young, you know, I play cricket with any instrument I'll get, anything that I can put my hands on, and I don't think that comes, you know, with practice or anything like that, just something that comes naturally. And something I'm very thankful of. And I think that it's a loan, you know, because it's something that can be taken away from you at any time.
Such is his determination, had he followed another route, Lara might now be displaying agility like this for Tottenham Hotspur. Instead, it was a close friend from Trinidad who took that route. Dwight York came over to play on the wing for Aston Villa.
Well, he was definitely was a good player, and I think if he had dedicated himself to football, probably who knows what would have been the outcome. You can't really fault him now because he seems to be choose the right sport, and things have turned out really well for him.
For both soccer and cricket, Queen's Park Oval was his first mecca. But home is here in Kantara, a village in northern Trinidad now invaded by the press, and where the windows of his house are endangered daily by small disciples. Or at least will be when they're strong enough to swing a bat and simultaneously keep their trousers up. Brian was born here in May 1969 to Pearl and Bunty Lara, the 10th of 11 children and the only one still unmarried. The saintly Pearl's greatest sadness is that her husband never lived to see Brian represent West Indies. Bunty died in 1988 when Lara was still 12th man.
That is a great motivating force. He loves his father, and as a matter of fact, He says that the one thing he regrets is that his father not around to see him establish his records and do so well in the game that his father loved and taught him to like so much in his embryonic years.
I mean, somebody could have a play, the play could be in the air, and you're in the middle of all these other people, I mean, and after cricket.
Joey Carew, a lacerating West Indies opening batsman in the 1960s, now executive manager of Trinidad's Queen's Park Club, was to play an increasingly significant role in Lara's development. Friend, coach, advisor, almost surrogate father.
A great deal, in great depth, and decided that it's not serious for the cricket.
But it was here, the Harvard Club, where Lara received his first formal coaching. His sister Agnes had spotted a newspaper advertisement inviting enthusiastic youngsters to come along.
I think I did all the inspiration for people to get me into the game from very young. You know, I remember playing cricket with anything, marbles, coconut branches, anything that I could put my hands on. And I think it was about age 6 that my sister saw it fit for me to attend a coaching clinic. And I never really lose any interest in the game. I also played soccer, but cricket was #1. And when I had to make a choice, you know, of course I chose cricket. And I saw it that way all my life. And I was one of the lucky ones where, you know, at school I was really excelling at cricket. So the inspiration was there just to keep going year after year, cricket season after cricket season, until I reached the top.
I don't think that it was a surprise to anyone who looked at cricket and colleges cricket, as we call it here, that he would turn out to be the sort of player he is. So to say, yeah, at an early age at college, I saw that he had that potential.
Potential. Aged just 15, Lara was already playing for Trinidad against Barbados in the fiercely competitive under-19 inter-island competition in the Caribbean.
He had a very good cricket brain from that age. You know, his all-cricket was extremely good. His running between the wickets, his catching, his returns to the wicket. And although he was a very small boy, he had good arms, you know, shoulders and elbows. From that age, you know, he was cricket personified.
Brian Lara was more aggressive, but his lack of size and power restricted him to just 2 boundaries. The pair batted out the hour before lunch and most of the period before tea, adding 89 and taking the score from 47 for 2 to 136.
I think that he's a very nice boy. I have watched him from the time he started, when he first came to Barbados, playing in the Sagari Sobers International Schoolboys competition. And from that day that I saw him, I was shouting his praise, and I was saying to people that he's going to be the best player the West Indies and the world has ever seen. And people laughed at me. People said, oh, he's got ability, but he's not that good.
Now proof of this man's sheer genius for ball games. In 1993, he became obsessed with golf, but decided to play it right-handed. To those of us who still can't play it either-handed after half a lifetime, it's quite bewildering. But his reasoning was utterly professional. Would left-handed golf impair his left-handed batting technique? He wouldn't risk it. His batting technique, incorporating the enormously high backlift that generates the ferocious power, is of almost surgical precision. Bowlers are cast as cannon fodder.
I think that he is the type of player that is always looking to hit the ball. He's always trying to get the bat behind the ball. He's always looking to score runs. His technique is good. His movement, he has good eyesight, and he picks the ball up early, and he's always in a position to play the shot. But I think that the backlift only emphasizes how quick he sees the ball and how quick he can get it down. And he picks it up so early that the backlift doesn't really restrict him at all.
He hits the ball so hard. He's not a big fella, and he hasn't got a particularly heavy bat, but he hits the ball so hard because he has a very high backlift and very fast hands. He gets the bat down quickly, which is going to generate power. You look at other batsmen try and do that, and they'll swing themselves off balance and they'll fall over. And Brian swings the bat that hard, but maintains his style and his technique in doing it because he's got such balance. His footwork is so good, and his balance is that of a ballerina, probably.
Who was snapped more times in 1994 than Princess Diana? Brian Lara. Graham Morris, a renowned sports cameraman, followed him around the world. In one innings alone, the record-breaking 375 in Antigua, he was forced to photograph him more than 700 times.
One way is very easy. because obviously he stays in for a long time, so you get more goes at it. But it can be hard work. It can get through a lot of film. He's got such a high backlift that every shot he plays, every ball he faces, he looks like he's going to hit it out the ground. It all happens so quickly. Trying to photograph him, you've certainly got to be on your toes.
The genius was a birthright, the technique acquired. But there's another quality needed to surmount the enormous competition in West Indies cricket.
I'm still trying to put my finger on what exactly is the reason for this success over the last 7 months. But I think that a lot have to do with the determination that I have to succeed. You know, I always wanted to succeed, and I always wanted to pick up the newspapers the next day, and if the West Indies won or if Warwickshire won, that I was the one that, you know, had a lot to do with it.
Lara issued a gale warning in Guyana early on in 1994. 167 against England in the second test. But it was Antigua, once a haven for Nelson's men of war, now the world's most extrovert cricket venue, where history was to be made. Not that there was any early hint of it. West Indies made a ghastly start. They were 11 for 1, then 12 for 2. What Lara did have on his side was time. He made the most of it. Astonishingly, next morning, Lara got his eye not at the nets, but on the golf course. Diehards were blanched at the very thought of it, but the conventional was not necessarily the way of genius. Down that second day, he batted on and on, seemingly infallible, until this time at the close, he was 320 not out, 45 runs short of the record. This was not conducive to a good night's sleep.
I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning trying to see exactly how I'm going to get this next 46 runs. You know, are you going to push it into the gaps and get 46 singles, or are you going to go out there and, you know, hit a few fours, and when you get to 350, then look for the next 15 runs pushing singles. So I was playing my innings since 4 o'clock in the morning.
Sir Gary Sobers arrived. Was this to be his dethronement day from the head of an eminent roll of honour? 7 batsmen stood ahead of Lara when play resumed. One by one, he picked them off. Only Sobers remained as Lewis ran into bowl.
He hooked it, and he has broken the world individual test record with a hook before to the mid-wicket boundary. There is an invasion of police and spectators. He is surrounded.
Well, I've never seen Sir Gary play cricket, but what everyone has told me, he's the greatest all-rounder ever, and some have even said he's the greatest batsman that ever played cricket. And to pass his milestone of 365 is the greatest feeling I've ever had. It's the happiest moment of my life.
That single shot was also to transform his life. It's hard to know whether he'd even imagined the turmoil that was to envelop him after this almost papal gesture.
People may find it strange to say, but it seemed also inevitable. And that's not a criticism of our bowlers, because at times I felt we bowled as well as possible, but the wicket was very flat. And Brian Lara set his sights on a big total, and it's the biggest compliment to him to say that it looked also inevitable at the time.
I don't think it sank in on that day. Of course, in the heat of the moment, you're batting and stuff like that, and you know, you break a world record. But I think preceding that, you know, you realize that, you know, what exactly you've done. I mean, the media made you realize. I mean, the headlines and stuff like that was really great.
Spectators that morning had turned up at 8 o'clock. VIPs flew in from everywhere. Television beamed it live to the world, and Graham Morris's pictures were flashing round the globe. The triumphal return to Trinidad was no excuse for a nationwide party. It was genuine. And just as everyone recalls where they were when J.F. Kennedy was shot, everyone knew where they were when Lara broke the record. Among them, Gordon Draper, cabinet minister in the Trinidad government.
I was at church. I was attending the funeral of one of our parliamentary colleagues. The entire cabinet was actually there. And while we listened to the scores as we went down to the funeral, we were actually in the church when he scored the runs, and we were getting the scores passed in to us from the security, so that we kept abreast of it, although we were taken up with the funeral at the same time. I think the population was jubilant.
And there continues to be a sense of buoyancy, particularly in the sporting fraternity, you know, because of what Brian has done. And one, in fact, senses a resurgence, you know, of interest among young people in sport generally. So that I think that he has done a lot for the youth in particular, and for the country in terms of the psyche of the people.
Being famous is quite difficult because it's a small country and everybody knows you. So it puts pressure on you. You know, they expect you to be looking great all the time. They expect you to be on your P's and Q's at all times, you know, best behavior every single time as you go anywhere in public. At the same time, it's also nice to be appreciated by your fellow countrymen. So there's the good side and the bad side.
Most Caribbean islands have an independent square. Trinidad's was being refurbished, so part of it was instantly named Lara Promenade. The name had a talisman quality. Even a dispirited-looking racehorse named Lara thought it had better buck up in the Trinidad Derby.
200 metres to race, and it's Lash Them Lara. Shot call, Da Vinci gaining with every stride, but it's Dale Whitaker on Lash Them Lara. Shot call is there. Here comes Da Vinci staying on a bit too late, but it's going to be Lash Them Lara the post, a winner under Dale Whitaker from shot call. Da Vinci, fourth place goes to...
6 days after his test record, Lara flew to England to join Warwickshire. His 375 commemorated on the scoreboard of a ground now populated by press photographers. Warwickshire had signed him before his test record for a reported bargain fee of £40,000.
I just thought that, you know, a lot of people might get carried away, you know, and expect too much. So I think I should remind them exactly, it's a sport you're playing and it takes one ball to get you out. And a lot of great players have gone through a lot of bad periods in their life. And I wouldn't like to disappoint anyone, but I would like them to understand that if this do happen to me, that they can support me.
This is Warwickshire first team cap, Brian, and congratulations.
Against long tradition, Lara was awarded his county cap before he'd scored a run. But he was greeted by a notice that warned him he would have to be one of the boys.
It said something like, because it was actually me who wrote it, welcome to the second best left-hander, and I think he's proved me otherwise.
From day one, his form with Warwickshire was monumental. It was only 11 days since his Antigua innings, but he'd started with a century, then another, and another, and another. Indeed, 5 centuries in his first 6 innings. What was his influence on the team?
I said, look, he's a great player. There's no doubt about that. You can learn from him. Stay with him at the other end. He is a great player. He could go on to be anything. He could go on to be the next Sir Garfield Sobers, Sir Donald Bradman. And they've done that. They've learned a lot from a marvellous player.
In the West Indies, the Red Stripe Cup is only 5 weekends of cricket. You know, you're very hungry to succeed during that short period to impress the selectors. And cricket here, it's a bit different where, you know, it's a lot of cricket. You've got a lot of time to, you know, get your act together, get in form, succeed. If you're out of form, you know, you still have 5 months to sort it out.
Well, obviously a man who's just scored 5 centuries in 6 innings needs to sort out why he only got 26 in the other one. And Lara certainly did. In his very next knock, he was to stand English and world cricket on its head. Against Durham at Edgbaston, he appeared to have been bowled, but it was a no-do. It was also the 50th anniversary of D-Day. One should not compare the heroism of battle with sport, but this was less sport than murder.
Brian came to me at lunchtime, and at this stage, I'm not sure how many he was on even, you know, 150 or something, but he came to me and said, Skip, you're not going to declare? Are you? You know, the world record's 501, something like that. So he actually had his sights set on it at lunchtime. You know, he still needed another 350. And I said, right, Brian, as long as you're there, I won't declare. When you get out, I'll probably, you know, declare and we'll have a bowl. And then I just sat down and watched him go on and on and on and score 100 after 100, 5 of them, and get 501. It was just an amazing innings.
Passing 375, because I would always like to pass that at some time. And that was definitely on my mind. And I was working towards it.
At the start of the day, Lara had been 111 not out. At lunch, he was actually 285. At tea, he was 418. When the day's last over began, he was just 2 short of the world record on 497. He blocked the first 3 balls, missed the 4th, and then waited for the 5th. 501 not out, the highest ever score in first-class cricket. He was 3 hours faster than Hanif had been over his 499, and he'd broken 21 other records along the way.
499 was broken, so 501 will be broken, but let's see after how many years, because my record was broken after 35 years, and this one, 501, records has to be broken, I think, and it's good for the game.
As scorer for Warwickshire and England, Alec Davis had audited both great records, a little matter of 876 runs for once out. What staggered everyone, particularly his colleagues, was that Lara was so infernally casual.
I admire that he can turn up sort of half an hour before a game and walk out and score, you know, a superb 197 like he did against Curtly Ambrose at Northampton that time. He's not the most punctual of guys, but you know, when he comes to the wicket, he's the most determined and forthright individual you'll ever see, and he's certainly the best player I've ever seen, and you know, this year has been a great benefit to me.